Prova, 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 prova. Funziona? Certo che funziona. Prova, prova, prova. Buongiorno, buongiorno, mondo gatto! Io sono Kittyspell, un gatto magico proveniente da Eldraine e oggi sarò la vostra guida ufficiale per gli spoiler di Terre Selvagge di Eldraine. Ma questo è solo l'inizio. Vi accompagnerò anche per ogni altra prossima live di questo canale Twitch. Fra pochi minuti incomincerà lo spettacolo. Nel frattempo parliamo un po' delle ultime news di Magic the Gathering. Sono usciti diversi leak, ma noi di Rebel Spoiler non ne parleremo, né diremo di che cosa si trattano, perché rispettiamo la politica negli spoiler ufficiali. Ma se siete interessati a sapere quale carte hanno fatto vedere, basta semplicemente cercarle su Google digitando leak Wilds of Eldraine, così riuscirete a vederli tutti. Inoltre sul nostro sito stiamo finendo di aggiornare tutte le decklist di Commander, quindi presto ci saranno tutti quanti le decklist di tutti quanti i set di Commander, dopodiché passeremo a fare le ristampe. Come già annunciato dalla Wizard, oggi il nostro set avrà un solo Planeswalker che si chiama Ashok. Per i futuri set hanno già annunciato che ci sarà un solo Planeswalker per ogni espansione. Quindi, che dire, noi ci accontenteremo di un solo Planeswalker, che purtroppo non sarà Occo, ma è Ashok. Quindi si può dedurre anche che potrebbe essere mm, potrebbe essere creatura. Certo, certo, potrebbe essere creatura. Quindi non ci resta che vedere e aspettare. Nel frattempo vediamo se è già iniziata la live. Mm, vediamo, sì. Ci tocca aspettare. Ci tocca aspettare. Nel frattempo vi facciamo vedere a che punto siamo col Commander. Siamo esattamente a Commander 2017. In Commander 2017 c'era il Commander Draghi, c'era il mazzo preferito da me che è quello dei gatti, Magia Arcana con Inalla e Brama Vampirica. Ma se vogliamo vedere il visual completo, vediamo che ci sono tante spell importanti, sia per i mazzi di adesso che quelli vecchi. Ci sono spell molto comuni come ritornare polvere, ci sono gli incantesimi incanta giocatore e c'è veramente di tutto. Vi consigliamo di dare un'occhiata appena avete tempo perché veramente c'è molta scelta. Inoltre potete vedere le carte singole di ogni comandante. Mancano ancora 5 minuti. Non ci resta che aspettare. Solo un minuto. Speriamo ci siano tanti topi. Topini gustosi. Ci siamo!
From Magic the Gathering. I'm Becca Scott, and today we're going back to the land of Eldraine. Chock full of fairy tales and stories come to life. But in the wilds of Eldraine, these familiar stories come with a magic twist. So where were we? The Phyrexians invaded the multiverse. It did not go well for anybody. If this were a fairy tale, it'd be one of those old ones that gets very dark very quickly. The people and creatures of Eldraine have survived, and Eldraine is back to the land we all know and love. Well, mostly. Eldraine was saved due to the return of Talion, the kindly lord. Talion made a desperate bargain with the three witch sisters, giving them each a powerful magical artifact. Each of the witches has taken their enchanted items to a different part of the world. Hilda of the Icy Crown has retreated into a wintry kingdom to be alone. Although she isn't as alone as she thinks. Agatha of the Vile Cauldron uses her gift to consume the essence of anyone unlucky enough to end up in her pot. And Ariette of the Charmed Apple wants to build herself a court of loyal subjects. While her apple grants her the love of any who take a bite, Ariette hungers for more. And so, she has helped unleash a new horror on the people of Eldraine. Together, Talion and the three witches were able to enchant the Phyrexians into a deep sleep. But Talion was unaware that there would be a cost to pay. The sleep has spread across Eldraine. Known as the Wicked Slumber, it overtakes villages, hamlets, even entire castles. Who knows what the sleepers will do while their conscious minds aren't in control? Talion struggles to confront the spreading slumber and seeks out the help of Eldraine's heroes. Kellen, a young farm boy with fairy blood and a mysterious family tree, is recruited by Talion to learn more about the Wicked Slumber. Time will tell if he is up to the task. Will and Rowan Kenrith are siblings who used to share a planeswalker spark. Where one went, the other had to follow. Now, for the first time, they are divided. Will seeks to put down his sword of ice and unite Eldraine through diplomacy. Rowan won't step foot in a negotiation and prefers the direct fairy tale approach, finding some sort of enchanted item that will magically reunite the kingdom. She might be onto something.
Niente male.
Ashiok may not have created the Wicked Slumber, but they are happy to spread it further, all while bending Rowan to their will. Eldraine is full of familiar stories, but in true Magic fashion, each has been given an unexpected twist. This set's two-color pairings illustrate the fairy tale archetypes that we all know and love, and you'll discover characters you're sure to recognize. A red-hooded traveler on her way to Grandma's with a basket of snacks and a crossbow. An adventurous young man who likes to climb beanstalks. I wonder what he found up there. And someone who's coming to the party whether she's invited or not. Eldraine is a land where these beloved stories play out over and over. Evil queens clash with brave knights, curses trouble the unvirtuous, and children lost in the woods find themselves on a magical journey. Some of these connect to the main story, others are whimsical adventures that play out in the background, but all of them will feel fun and familiar, and all these pieces provide the opportunity for you to put your own unique twist on them. For instance, Mother Goose is a sweet old lady who tells you bedtime stories. Goose Mother, on the other hand... Oh wow, that's terrifying. And what about Hansel and Gretel? In Eldraine, both children weren't able to follow the breadcrumbs back home to their happily ever after. Instead, one of them was eaten, and the other became a badass witch hunter, who obviously had some issues to work out around enchanted candy. These are fairy tales we all know, and in Wilds of Eldraine, you'll get to revisit these familiar stories with a magic twist. You aren't just a creature attacking for 2 damage, you are the Pied Piper leading a horde of 1/1 rats. Who can stand against his horde of rodents? What about a very angry cookie? But this is no ordinary cookie. Every character has a role to play, and in Wilds of Eldraine, you'll find roles to play. This new mechanic attaches an enchantment to a creature, a role, affecting their attributes and adding a fun wrinkle to the story. A once noble knight is transformed into a monster knight, giving him +1/+1 and trample. An evil witch charms a member of the court and schemes her way into becoming a royal witch, granting her +1/+1 and ward 1. I guess that makes her your royal wickedness. Ooh, I like the way that sounds. And sometimes it's a role you want removed. Can anyone lift this curse off of Skybeast Tracker? I need to do something about this goose mother. Don't let it go to your head, goose. Bargain is another new mechanic introduced in this set. Just like Jack traded the family cow for some magic beans, you'll be able to hawk, barter, and swap your way to victory. Bargain lets you sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token when you cast the spell. Once you've given something up, you receive something in return. Sacrifice a token when you cast Torch the Tower, increasing your damage to 3, and you get to scry 1. Sounds like a deal. Nothing is more crucial to Eldraine than a sense of adventure, and so the adventure mechanic makes a return. This ability allows you to cast either the creature card, in this case Besotted Knight, or choose to send your creatures on an adventure. If you choose to activate Betroth the Beast, you get to create a royal roll token, giving your target +1/+1 and ward 1. Your adventure is then sent into exile but can later return as its creature card to complete the quest. Perfect, another successful adventure. And in this set, look for 2-color adventures. Oh yeah, of course that dragon makes treasure. Sagas are also back. What better mechanic to use in Eldraine than one that allows you to tell a story? This saga features the 3 blind mice.
Topini!
Oh great, now that song is stuck in my head. This set also has a commander deck centered around roles, Virtue and Valor. A green-white deck, it enables you to step seamlessly into any role. And if you'd like to join the court of Talion the Kindly Lord yourself, we have Fey Dominion, a commander deck focused on allowing you to finally play as the wild and bewitching Fey. Fairy tales are known for their lush illustrations, and Wilds of Eldraine is no exception, with a huge variety of gorgeous treatments and alternate art.
Belle.
Behold, the enchanting tales.
Lentax.
These top enchantments are presented here in beautiful storybook style. You've played them, you've loved them, but you've never seen them like this. They'll be a dream to collect and play, but a nightmare for your opponents. Some of these enchanting tales also have captivating anime borderless versions. I'm sorry, is that a lamb bumblebee? Aw, Kindred Discovery got so romantic. They'll be available in foil, non-foil, and beautiful new confetti foil treatments. Ugh, I love the line work in this one. That is the greatest doubling season I've ever seen. And there are other gems to find with the return of borderless favorites for select cards. Are you tired of borders? We've got you covered. Adventure cards get to have some fun too with their special showcase treatment. What a great way to make the most of this returning mechanic. Yeah, that dragon's got some expensive taste. Treasure, I love it. Wilds of Eldraine will be available for pre-release the weekend of September 1st through 3rd. On Arena, check out the early streamer event on August 31st, then enjoy the set release on September 5th. It will be available everywhere on September 8th. And if you want to read even more of the story, make sure you take a look at the web fiction, which is available right now. And check out these 2 promotional cards that will be available at your local game store, Pyroblast and Ice Out. Keep your eyes peeled for what inspired these promos as we get closer to launch day. And that's a quick little peek at some of what you'll find in the wilds of Eldraine. There's so much more to discover in this tangled, wild, enchanting world, but now it's time for us to end like every good fairy tale. And they played happily ever after. Right. Perfect.
Bene, 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 bene. Ottimo. Ora dovrebbe esserci lo show in cui parlano delle carte, così potremo leggerle tranquillamente e potremmo commentarle. Penso che non manchi molto. Però veramente bellissime carte.
Hello and welcome to Weekly MTG. I'm your host, Blake Rasmussen, and I am joined today to talk about Wilds of Eldraine by Sarah Wassel and Ian Duke. Welcome, you two.
Thanks, Blake.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Blake. Glad to be here.
Yeah, real quick, before we dive into all the previews that we're going to talk about, can you tell the people at home a little bit about what you did on the set?
Yeah, sure. I'm an art director. I work in the studio translating the world building visions into art. For the cards, I work kind of more primarily on the special versions of cards with custom frames and different art styles.
Which we're going to talk about several of those today. And then Ian, what was your role?
I was the design lead of Eldraine, which means that along with my team, we were responsible for sort of the latter half of the design process, so the final card file, game balance, iterating on the gameplay and the mechanics and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah. And Ian is so deep in testing, he's coming to us from an undisclosed location, so we're just using a picture of him today. But he does get to be the sharpest dressed in the stream by default. So we're glad to have both of you, and we're going to spend the next hour talking about Wilds of Eldraine mechanics, about the treatments, the art styles, everything. We're going to have a question and answer session at the end. We have so much to get to. We're just going to get started. We're going to start by talking about the mechanics, and of course, the headline returning mechanic is Adventure, and our first preview card underscores how many adventures there are in the set and some of the fun things you can do with them. So let's see, Belluna Grand Squall.
Belluna Grand Squall, creatore leggendario, gigante nobile. Sick Thrill, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. Milla 7 carte, poi metti tutte le carte che hanno un'avventura in mano. Travolgere. Le magie permanenti che lanci costano. Le magie permanenti che lanci che hanno un'avventura, il costo dell'avventura costa 1 in meno.
The design of this mythic.
Yeah, so from very early on, thinking about what we wanted to bring back from the original Throne of Eldraine, we knew that adventures was a really fun mechanic, a really popular mechanic as well. So we wanted to see adventures coming back here in Wilds of Eldraine, and one of the didn't get this time around have a legendary creature. That example here for to play with a lot of adventure cards in their decks. So we brought in Belluna Grandsquall to kind of be that character that is kind of the headliner for folks that like to play with a lot of adventures. Adventures in the original Throne of Eldraine were sort of centered in the teamer colors, green, blue, and red. And that's also the case in Wilds of Eldraine. They appear in all colors in Wilds of Eldraine, but they're a little bit more centralized in green, blue, and red, kind of rep that of the set. And of course, if you putting lots in your deck, Belluna can help you find them and then also help you cast them.
And then, Sarah, this is also the return of the adventure frame, and there's a different art style, there's a different frame. Can you talk a little bit about the development of that and the feel that goes into it?
Yeah, sure. The Eldraine having being all about fairy tales, that gives us not just, literally thousands of years of stories embedded in human culture, but art styles that go back a really long way too. So the storybook frame is meant to kind of feel more like an illustrated fairy tale poem, like a book. So the images in these frames are a little bit flatter. They're a little bit more. They look like they were kind of hand drawn, maybe hand penciled with the color, not as bright, not as kind of digital feeling. So you can see that the difference in the two pieces here. The regular frame card is really has that really bright white in it, and balloon is looking a little more kind of like still in the right image.
All right. To emphasize that point a little bit more, let's look at. So this is a card. This next card is a card we saw in the debut, but we're going to be seeing a lot from Kellen going forward. So we wanted to visit it. This is Kellen the Fey Blooded. I'll read it again. We showed it in the debut, but it's a cool card.
Kellan the Fey Blooded, creatura leggendaria fatta umano. Bringing Bone, uno bianco, stregoneria, avventura. Passa in assegno il tuo grimorio per una carta aura o incantesimo. Rivelala e mettila in mano, poi rimescola. È un 2-2 con doppio attacco. Le altre creature che controlli prendono +1/+0 per ogni altra aura o equipaggiamento attaccate a Kellan.
How do you all balance having multiple different versions, creating different art feels on these?
Yeah, sure. Well, from these two, it's easy to see one of the ways we do it is by cropping the art differently and presenting it differently. So in the borderless version, we get way up close and personal with Kellen, and we can see them much better since we're just seeing kind of from the waist up. And then in the middle version, this is a really kind of extreme example of the pencil sketch feel. Omar Ryan works in pencils and in pretty intricate textures when he draws. Getting his black and white sketches in is one of the greatest gifts of my job, honestly. They're remarkable from the beginning. They're not rough, they're just so detailed and beautiful. So I think you could see in the three of these how different they each feel from each other. So what we're trying to do is give the players everything is exciting.
And Ian, this is also one of the twists on Adventure this time around is having the adventure portion and the creature portion be different colors. Can you talk a little bit about that development?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said earlier, we knew we wanted to bring back adventure. We knew it was something that players would expect to see when we return to the world of Eldraine, but we wanted to put a little twist on it this one. So, we've done some of the adventures in the set, not all of is they're what we call internally off-color adventures, which means that the adventure spell, the instant or sorcery portion, uses a different color of mana than the creature itself. So here, Kellen has a white adventure, but is a red creature himself.
And now, for Kellen specifically, Ian, how this is our first time meeting this character. It's a character we've already said we're going to follow. How important was it to get the mechanics on this character correct?
Oh, it was really important. We knew that Kellen would be an important part of the storyline from pretty early on, so we knew we wanted to have a Kellen card in the set. And my team worked very closely with our creative and art folks to make sure that we were representing the character well. Here, one of the powers that Kellen has is he can create magical weapons out of magical energy here. So we've kind of represented that by being able to search up an aura or equip and equip him or enchant him easily. And obviously being enchanted with the right side box here and benefits himself and your other creatures for doing so.
All right. Let's move on to our next mechanic, and we're going to use a little bridge because our next card, Conceited Witch, has both adventure and creates a role token. So Conceited Witch is 2 and a
creatura prezzo della bellezza, nero, stregoneria, avventura. Creiamo un ruolo wicked attaccato a una creatura che controlliamo. È una creatura 2 nero, minaccia 2-3.
and there's 6 different types of roles set. Wicked is one of them here. Different, and each card you to create a role will tell you which role to create and how to put it onto a creature. Each player can only have 1 role per creature, and if you try to put a second role on that same creature, then the new one will replace the old one. The old one will go to the graveyard.
Mm-hmm. And these wicked roll tokens, we're printing these tokens, right? They're coming in packs.
Yes, we have tokens available to represent roles, and the tokens themselves are not edited, but they have a roll on the top and a roll on the bottom. And then we have 6 different roles, so there's 3 different tokens, each with 2 roles on it. Makes it a little bit easier to find the right role that you're looking for as you're, searching through a pile of draft chaff, or as it were.
All right, well, let's look at a couple other role cards. The next one up is Living Lectern. So this is 1 and a...
Living Lectern, 1 blu, creatura artefatto costrutto, 1, sacrifica questa creatura, pesca una carta, crea un ruolo di evocatore, una pedina a ruolo evocatore, attacca a un'altra creatura che controlli, attiva solo come stregoneria, 0-4.
Talk about, Ian, a little bit about how I was gonna say this eventually. The role that role plays in draft.
Yeah, roles are sort of the glue that binds the whole set together. There's really a ton of things you can do with them, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of those as we go on through today's show. But the most important things about roles is that they are enchantments, so they'll trigger anything that you have that cares about creating enchantments, or enchantments entering the battlefield, or going to the graveyard, or your creatures being enchanted. It also interacts several of our mechanics. That a little bit later on. I won't jump up there. But most of the draft archetypes will care in some way about having roles, whether that's creating additional permanents, whether it's about sacrifice fodder, things you can sacrifice to your other effects, or simply just caring about enchantments or having enchanted creatures.
All right. Next up for roles, we have a rare named Faunsbane Troll.
Faunsbane Troll, creatura troll. Quando entra nel campo di battaglia, crea una pedina, ruolo mostro, attaccato a questa creatura. 1, sacrifica un'aura attaccata a Faunsbane Troll. Faunsbane Troll combatte una creatura bersaglio che non controlli. Se questa creatura sta per morire in questo turno, esiliela invece. Attivate solo come stregoneria.
So it comes in as 5/5 stats because it gets to enchant itself with the monster roll. So 5/5 trample already off the bat, and then you get 1 free fight out of it from the initial roll that it creates. And then if you have additional ways to put other rolls or other auras onto the troll, then you can kind of keep mowing down your opponent's creatures with it.
All right. We are next going to move into Bargain, the mechanic that sacrifices a lot of these auras. So we're going to look at Rowan's Grim Search. Also happens to be a story spotlight.
Rowan, cacciatore oscuro, oscura ricerca di Rowan, istantaneo, Bargain, puoi sacrificare un artefatto, incantesimo o pedina quando lanci questa magia. Se questa magia è stata Bargain, guarda le prime 4 carte del tuo grimorio, poi mettine 2 in fondo al tuo grimorio in qualsiasi ordine e il resto nel tuo cimitero. Peschi 2 carte e perdi 2 vite.
Throughout the set, I mentioned earlier that roles work well with some of other mechanics in the set. Bargain is one of those. You can sacrifice to upgrade your spells with this like bargain, and they all work the same way. They all ask you to sacrifice enchantment or token or to upgrade your spell.
All right, let's move on to the next mechanic, Celebration. So we're going to take a look at Gallant Pie Wielder.
Gallant Pie Wielder, il creatore. 2 white, creatura cavaliere nano. Attacco improvviso, celebrazione. Questa creatura ha doppio attacco finché 2 o più permanenti non terra sono entrati nel campo di battaglia sotto il tuo controllo in questo turno. 2, 3.
Turn, and that's another mechanic that works really well with roll, but also works well in general with just playing out lots of small creatures, equipment, other ways of getting permanents out of the battlefield. And the red-white in Wilds of Eldraine is aggressive playing field type of archetype, so it fits in perfectly with what Celebration's doing.
All right. And speaking of the red-white archetype, we touched on it in the debut, but let's go a little deeper on the draft archetype. So if we can put the draft uncommon. These are the signpost uncommons.
Molte carte.
Draft. It's typical for a set to have these multicolored cards in these types of multicolored cards in the uncommon slot that give you a direction.
Proviamo a tradurle. Share of Numbering Depths, 2 bianco-blu, creatura leggendaria, mago, tritone. Quando questa creatura entra nel campo di battaglia, tappa una creatura bersaglio controllata da un avversario e mettegli un segnalino stun, un segnalino stun. Non stappa durante la sua fase di stap e bisogna tirarlo via quando viene stappato. Quando tappi uno o più creature stappate controllate dai tuoi avversari, pesca una carta. Questa abilità trigger solo una volta per turno. Obira, Dreaming Duelist, blu-nero, creatura leggendaria, guerriero fata. Flash, volare. Quando un'altra fatina entra nel campo di battaglia sotto il tuo controllo, ogni avversario perde un punto vita. 2-2. Totem Tanks, Swarm Piper, 1 nero rosso, creatura leggendario, Human Warlock Bard. Quando questa creatura o un'altra creatura non pedina che controlliamo muore, creiamo un ratto 1-1 nero. Con questa creatura non può bloccare. 1 nero, 2 punti. Un ratto attaccante bersaglio che controlli, attacco letale fino alla fine del turno. Ruby, Daring Tracker, rosso-verde, creatura leggendaria, scout umano. Rapidità. Quando Ruby attacca, se controlli una creatura con forza 4 o superiore, Ruby prende +2/+2 fino alla fine del turno. Tappi e aggiungi rosso-verde. Ser Armont, The Redeemer, 3 verde-bianco, creatura leggendaria, cavaliere umano. Quando questa creatura entra nel campo di battaglia, crea una pedina ruolo mostro attaccato tu un'altra creatura bersaglio che controlli. Le creature incantate che controlli prendono +1/+1. Purtroppo adesso vanno avanti.
You were keen-eyed in the debut, you might have caught this reprint's name on a piece of art, but Glass Casket is coming back.
Wow. Glass Casket, 1 bianco, artefatto. Quando entra in campo di battaglia esigli una creatura bersaglio controllata da un avversario con valore di mana 3 o meno finché non lascia il campo di battaglia.
It was sort of the Sleeping Princess analog, and here they're using the Glass Casket to do some magic around the realm of dreams. So repurposing that reprint. Happy to see it back. Saw a good amount of play back in the day. All right, let's move on to the promos and start talking about the promos that you can get with Wilds of Eldraine. We're going to start with the Buy a Box, which is an exciting new Wrath variant called Expel the Interlopers.
Expel the Interloper, 3 bianco-bianco, stregoneria. Scegli un numero tra 0 e 10. Distruggi tutte le creature con forza superiore o uguale al numero scelto.
number, and you can see the extended version in the middle and the buy a box ultimate version on the right. So, Sarah, first of all, tell us a little bit about the art there on that buy a box, which has a unique feel to it.
Yeah, that's a piece by Angela Wang, and this was art directed by Forrest Scheel. This is a lot more in line with kind of like the Enchanted Tales art in the set, where the colors are a little more kind of primary, and there's a lot of purple in those cards too. Yeah, it's just a really like different take. The light's different. The characters are from different perspectives. It's pretty fun. I'm so excited about the design of the witches in this set, the visual design of them. They're such elegant divas in the way that they dress.
È una spell molto, molto versatile, ci permette di spaccare magari tutti i gigantoni mentre lascia a noi le pedine piccole.
Lich Knight's Conquest, which is the bundle promo.
Lich Knight Conquest, 4 nero, stregoneria. Sacrifica un qualsiasi numero di artefatti, incantesimi e pedine. Metti altrettante carte creatura dal tuo cimitero sul campo di battaglia in questo modo.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued to hear about the bundle art.
Yeah, I mean they go together really well because of that blue kind of teal color that's carried across both pieces of art, which is pretty exciting. But I think that the alternate version is really like an exciting, very, very different perspective on the sorcery of this card, and it's so fun to you have the full-size knights and they're riding through this scary forest, and that's like you said, it's really effective and beautiful, but then the other card is really focusing on that moment of impact and the scariness and the kind of style of the Lich's magic.
Yeah. And Ian, that first line is very familiar. That's the text of Bargain. Talk about how this card came about and what it's meant to do.
Yeah, like you said, Blake, this is very thematic to the bargain mechanic. It's sort of like a mass bargain. You can bargain multiple times with this card. We just thought that's a twist. This is kind of a one-off card. It's the only one that way in particular, with being able to sacrifice multiple things to get multiple effects here. And in general, we just thought this was a really cool build around. We had a lot of fun play testing with it internally. There's a lot of neat things you can do with creating food or role tokens, or tokens from other sets as well in the context of standard, and then filling up your graveyard and bringing back a bunch of huge things all at once is always fun.
Absolutely. All right, our next promo card, very thematic name, Stroke of Midnight. So for 2 and a white,
Stroke of Midnight, 2 bianco, istantaneo. Distruggi un permanente non terra bersaglio. Il suo controllore crea una pedina umano 1/1 bianco.
That we've seen in the past.
Yeah, sort of like in the style of cards like Beast Within that older players might. This is kind of giving you the choice of getting this thing, but giving them a little some turn, and definitely a very efficient removal spell that will be useful in limited and perhaps even in standard as well.
All right. Next up, we have the promo version of Fairy Dream Thief. Now these
Ladro fatta dei sogni. Creatura fatta Warlock. Non mi ricordo cos'è Warlock. Volare. Quando entra nel campo di battaglia sorveglia 1. 2 nero, esilia questa carta dal tuo cimitero. Peschi una carta e perdi un punto vita. Creatura 1/1, costo 1 nero.
Sorry, what are we trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, just a nice little one drop here that some extra fairy density in your deck for things that care about having lots of fairies, for example. You can get a nice flying attacker early on, off later on, get some of the graveyard as well.
All right, and our final promo card is Tanglespan Lookout.
Tanglespan Lookout, 2 verde, creatura satiro. Quando un'aura entra nel campo di battaglia sotto il tuo controllo, pesca una carta. 2-3.
Yeah, absolutely. It works well with the as kind of easy ways to get lots of auras. Most of the auras in the set are coming out via the roll mechanic, although we do have a couple other ones as well. So this is definitely a great card to look out for, especially when you're playing white-green and you have lots of rolls in your deck and care about enchanted creatures.
Yeah. And yeah, we recognize that Ian's audio is cutting out quite a bit here and there, sort of randomly. So if anyone missed the top of that, he was pointing out how well this goes together with the roll tokens. And the roll tokens trigger this, which is pretty spicy. All right. Next up, we are going to talk about Enchanting Tales. So, Enchanting Tales are...
Parliamo di Enchanting Tales, sono incantesimi che usciranno in Terre Selvagge di Eldraine e permetteranno di fare diverse cose e ovviamente non saranno giocabili nello standard, però sono comunque ottime ristampe che possono essere giocate sia in Commander sia in altri formati.
Spend some time on. The first one that we're going to talk about has just the one version, but you'll see in a second why we're talking about this. So, Spreading Seas is our first Enchanting Tales.
Spreading Seas, 1 blu, incantesimo aura, incanta terra. Quando entra nel campo di battaglia pesca una carta. La terra incantata è un'isola. Molto facilmente viene utile per incantare una terra dell'avversario in modo da poter superare le sue difese con delle creature passaisole.
In Historic on day one, we've seen most of them by this point. So Spreading Seas, Blood Moon, Necropotence, Sneak Attack, Land Tax, and then there's one more card that will be revealed later today by a third-party outlet that will also be on that list, and the Arena Twitter account will share what that is. I see Merfolk players already getting a little upset in chat, and yep, Fun Police Detected is correct. So with that out of the way, Sarah, talk a little bit about the art on Spreading Seas and kind of how you approach the Enchanting Tales overall.
Sure, yeah. So our goal here, or our inspiration, was mid-century kind of background art from classic animated films. And what that means is that this art style, shapes are really important. Shapes and lines and composition. So you'll see in all of these cards that kind of the first thing that the artists are doing is the trees are like a solid kind of flat, very considered shape. The buildings, that you can see in this one, how completely square and really neat. And that, the relationship between the sky and the castle is really like, there's not a ton of detail in the sky, and that's on purpose to give the castle this like breathing room and like this kind of elegant, brave minimalism. The frames are a really exciting part of this series as well. We designed these custom frames in-house. Our illustrator, Dalton Pencarina, did them all, and we have different versions for each color, and you can see even within each color frame, on the bottom sides there, it speaks to the mana character. So they all have a slightly different pattern within that space. And this also kind of references like medieval tapestries, which I think is something of a visual motif that everyone relates to when it comes to like, tales of knights fighting dragons, kind of classic fantasy and classic kind of fairy tale roots. And in the top left of the card, you see that the frame kind of like curves down to the left. This is our way to kind of like evoke like a storybook or a decorative drop capital letter from an illustrated manuscript. We're really excited about these frames, and the artists worked really hard to incorporate the color within their work with the specific colors of the frames. So there's a lot of harmony there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and some of these have multiple pieces of art and different treatments because we have the anime-inspired versions as well. So let's take a look at our next one, which is Bitter Blossom. This is
Un'altra bellissima ristampa, Bitter Blossom, incantesimo tribale fatina. All'inizio del tuo mantenimento perdi un punto vita e crei una fatina, farà appunto uno nero via... no, uno nera, uno nera con volare. Molto giocata in Commander.
Went to print after that change, so this will probably be the last place that you see tribal used on a card. But Bitter Blossom, really powerful card. I still remember my first Lorwyn draft being opening one of these and being past one as well, and then immediately winning the draft very easily. But I want to talk about the art first, Sarah, because these have two very distinct styles, yet they're both Bitter Blossom, and they're both very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we work with a Japanese art agency called Kobudo that helps us with the commissioning the anime art, because they've been around for 100 years. They're specialists in working with the best anime style artists in Japan. And I think that with the two of these together, you can really especially kind of see how aggressive the style of the Enchanted Tales art is, right? If you look at the fairy's little tiny feet, I mean, we know those are feet, we can see those are legs, but almost those shapes are so strange. They're almost like abstract shapes of feet. Of course, the artist Serena Malian did an amazing job of like tucking that little fairy inside that flower. And then, you know, the anime version like has so much expressiveness, that little line of drool coming down from their face, like their little touse of hair, and the beautiful kind of still like enchanted sleep dripping off the edges of the flower petals. Yeah, it's pretty exciting to have both of these as an option.
And let's look at our third one. We'll talk about the art for that, and then we'll go back to Ian to talk about the role of these in draft. But this is a card near and dear to my heart. That pun is intended. Let's see, Defense of the Heart. 3 in a green.
Ottimo. Difesa del focolare 3 verde, incantesimo. All'inizio del nostro mantenimento, se un avversario controlla 3 o più creature, sacrifichiamo difesa del focolare. Passiamo in rassegna il nostro grimorio per cercare fino a 2 creature. Mettere su queste 2 creature sul campo di battaglia, poi rimescolare. Costo 3, una foresta. Carta mitica.
A little rose in between them. And then, you know, such a strong contrast to Olena's Richards version on the left, which again is like really flat and two-dimensional, really decorative in its composition. It's way less about feeling like an actual scene, that something is about to happen.
Yeah, and for those asking in chat, no, this one is not banned in Arena. The 6 cards, the 5 of which I named earlier, and there will be another one revealed on a third-party outlet, are the 6 that are banned. Defense of the Heart. Play with it in the historic to your heart's content. Now, Ian, so one of these shows up in every draft pack, which, not one of these Defense of the Heart, but one of the Enchanting Tales. Talk about the texture that adds to the environment.
Yeah, it adds a lot of fun in just in making each draft different from the one before it. These serve a lot of rules in the set. For one, they're all enchantments, which plays in really well with themes in the set, including all the things that care about like roles and auras and enchanted creatures and enchantments and things along those lines. So they play into those themes as well. But because these are sort of iconic fan favorite cards from all throughout Magic's history, they're all very from one another. Them are very roundy as well. So you can have, you know, you open an exciting card from this bonus sheet and get a really cool, I don't know, rare or mythic rare enchantment from Magic's past. That's a really fun thing to build around. It can take your draft in a different direction.
All right. And the other thing I want to note about the Enchanting Tales is they do have this cool foiling we're calling confetti foiling. I believe we have a video. You might have seen this in the debut as well.
Ecco la finitura confetti.
Confetti foil versions will have different collector numbers. Those collector numbers will show up in the card image gallery, so you can see how gorgeous these look. And that shimmer they have to go along with it. For those asking about how and where you
Nelle carte, non so se ci avete fatto caso, ma c'è anche Blood Moon.
mtg.com at the conclusion of the stream, there will be an article up called Collecting Wilds of Eldraine that will have all of that information. Speaking of collecting,
Alla fine della live ci sarà sul sito della Wizard tutto quanto l'articolo con le carte che abbiamo visto in questa live.
in versions of the cards that were in the Walking Dead secret lair a while back. So we finally gotten around to those. These will show up on
Adesso parlano di Universe Within, cioè ci saranno le carte di Walking Dead in versione normale, quindi giocabile senza avere i personaggi di Walking Dead.
So 2 and a white for a 3/4 legendary creature, human soldier. As Greymon Amazon Stellar enters the battlefield, choose 2 abilities from among First Strike, Victims, and Lifelink. Humans you control have each of the chosen abilities. As long as you control 4 or more humans, humans you control get +2/+2.
Questo è Rick Grimes. Questa, questa è la pala preferita da Giza. Artefatto leggendario, equipaggiamento. La creatura equipaggiata prende +2/+0 e minacciare. Quando attacca creiamo zombie.
3, a black and a green. When your hostile scavenger enters the battlefield, create 2 walker tokens. As long as Interior is equipped, it must be blocked if able. When Interior and at least 2 zombies attack, Interior gains indestructible until end of turn, and it's a 3/3. Then we have Gregor Shrewd Magistrate. 1, a white and a blue. Legendary creature, human advisor, 1/3 with sculpt. Whenever Gregor Shrewd Magistrate deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its power. Then we have Honsk, Slayer Zealot. For 2, a red and a green. You get a 4/4 legendary creature, human archer. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent creates 3 walker tokens, which are 2/2 black zombies. And then Honsk, Slayer Zealot. Honsk is just fun to say. Deals 2 damage to target creature. Whenever a zombie an opponent controls dies, draw a card. And then finally we have Malik Grim Manipulator. For 2, a red, a white, and a black. You get a 4/3 legendary creature, human rogue. When Malik Grim Manipulator enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each secretly choose a creature that player controls. Then those choices are revealed, and that player sacrifices those creatures. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a creature, you create a treasure token. All right, again, those will show up in the list section of set boosters for the exact rarity. Check out that collecting article on dailymtg.com. All right, that brings us to the Q&A portion of the stream. We have a few questions lined up here, but feel free to put them in chat. It always helps if you tag @magic so that we can get to them, and we will get to as many as we can before the end of the stream. We're going to start out with, there have been some questions about the roll tokens that we saw right up front, so we're going to show those off right now real quick. We have all 6 of them, so they come double-sided like this.
Quindi questi sono i segnalini. Ruolo. Mostro. Evocatore. Reale. Eroe giovane. Wicked, non so cos'è. Maledetto. E Wicked.
Sarah, can you talk a little bit about creating the art for these tokens?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as you can see, there's a series, like a visual series kind of going on here. The artist, Rowena Kai, has this very beautiful, kind of eerie, but still so textured and soft feeling way of drawing and painting. The idea behind these was that since each of these is meant to represent a role from fairy tales, the object or the aspect of the card is highlighted in white. That is the kind of like the thing that the role hinges on, and that's the consistency through them. And then there's like a primary color for each one.
Very cool. next up for questions, we'll go with Sarah for this one. So previously when we visited Eldraine, all of the adventure cards got the adventure frame, the booster fund treatment. Is that the case for this Eldraine, or do the common adventures have them, or is it just a subsection?
I'm not sure about that, actually.
Okay, I know.
Sorry.
Comment.
What are you doing?
Comment. I was, I'm asking the experts.
Sorry, giving me a chance.
I know
You're
many
giving me a
things, but I bring
I flipped
guests on. Yeah. No, the common adventures do not have the treatment this time around. Yeah. I think they were looking to make that treatment a little bit more special. That was one of the pieces of feedback we got for the original Eldraine. Let's see. Next up. Ian, maybe you can take this one. How does an adventure legendary creature work in the command zone?
Oh man, you're really putting me on the spot here, Blake, with the commander rules questions. I think it works mostly the way that you would expect. If you're casting it, if you've already sent it on an adventure and then you're casting it from exile, actually that's a great question. I'm not exactly that interacts with commander tax. That's a really good question there.
I believe the answer is that if you cast the spell, which you can cast from the command zone, and it goes to exile through adventure, that's not your command zone, so it does not get the tax to cast the creature. But then when the creature dies, if you go to pay, for example, the adventurous, actually let's put Baluna up on the screen, Sean, if you could, so we can actually talk through an example. Okay, so let's say Baluna is your commander. You cast Seek Thrills. First time you cast it, it costs 5 mana. Baluna goes to exile as an adventure. You can then cast it from the exile zone for 3 mana. Commander tax does not apply at that point because it has not gone to the command zone. Baluna then dies, changes zones, whatever. You send it back to the command zone. If you now want to
stanno
cast
parlando della regola del
Thrills,
comandante.
it's going to cost
Quindi se
7
Beluna è
mana.
il nostro
If you
comandante,
want to cast
può
Baluna
essere
from the
lanciata
command zone,
per il
it's
suo
gonna
costo
cost
di
5.
avventura,
However, if you
viene
cast Seek
esiliata,
Thrills for
ora resta in
7 mana,
esilio,
put
paghiamo il
Baluna
suo costo
in
di creatura,
the
entra nel campo di
adventure,
battaglia,
exile zone,
muore,
it'll
poi
then only
finisce
cost
nella
3.
zona di comando.
I am not a rules
È
manager.
un
That may not be
costo,
exactly
costa
correct, but I
sempre 2
believe
mani
that
in
is
più
how
per
that
essere
works.
lanciata.
You're right, Blake. Did a good job
Ma
explaining
il
that. Right?
costo
So if you're casting it
dell'avventura lo
after
fa
it's already
costare
been an
sempre
adventure, you can
meno.
avoid the commander tax, but either way you'll have to
Quindi
pay
si
the
può
commander tax
lanciare tutte le
to
volte
either
che
cast
si
it from your command
vuole
zone
a
straight
livello
up, or to get it
teorico
into
per il suo
the
costo di
exile zone by
avventura,
casting the adventure.
senza la tassa del comandante.
All right. Let's see. Can I run Graymond and Rick Grimes in my commander deck since they have different names? No. So the way that the universes within cards work is that there's an indicator in the lower left that says the collector number equals the secret layer number, which indicates that they are the same card. So if you have Graymond and Rick Grimes, you can only run one of them in their commander deck. For all
Altra domanda da comandante: se abbiamo Greymond e Rick Grimes, non possiamo giocare tutti e due nella zona di comando perché è la stessa carta, quindi solo un comandante.
art treatment a card receives?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's based on rarities of cards have something to do with it, and story highlights have something to do with it. It kind of just depends set to set, what we're feeling like has the most resonance within the world. This Enchanted Tales, because it has such strong roots in like fairy tale and storytelling, we went really wild with it doing that whole bonus sheet. So it really just kind of, it's part of the development of each set of like how much resonance there is.
Ciao Miki92, benvenuto!
It was a question about whether the anime versions of Enchanted Tales are only on Mythics. The answer is no. They are mostly on the Mythics, but there are some rares that have anime and confetti foil versions. I will say that all anime versions have a confetti foil version as well. There are, let me get the count here real quick. 20 cards that get the anime and confetti foil treatment. That one's in.
Quindi 20 carte avranno il trattamento confetti.
How many different Enchanting Tales cards are there? Great. There are 20 that get the anime treatment. I guess I might as well just finish that out and talk about how many there are overall. And the answer to that is...
It's 63.
It is 63. Sarah got it. Well done. I happen to have the list up in front of me. So,
Sure.
63. Could you please clarify the reasoning behind banning spreading seas? It's not as clear as the other 4 you mentioned. I'm sure the arena team will share some of that thought process later on, but I know that in the notes that I saw, the reasoning for spreading seas and blood moon were the same, that messing with mana is not something they're super interested in historic. Obviously, one does all lands, one just does one land, but that was the reasoning there. I'm sure the arena team will talk more about it. Where can we find the anime cards? Again, if you head to dailymtg.com, they will. There's a Collecting Wilds of Eldraine article that's going to give you the most detailed information on where and how to find everything. There are graphics and images and all of that sort of jazz. Definitely head there. Let's see. Will there be serialized cards in Wilds of Eldraine? No.
Ci sono carte numerate? No. Questa volta no.
Will the Walking Dead cards be in foil? No.
Le carte di Universe Within di The Walking Dead non saranno foil.
Time a legendary creature has an adventure.
Yes, I believe that is the case.
Yeah. Because we had to make a new version of that frame for this set.
Okay.
To account for that. Mm-hmm.
Great. Was that an intentional, like, Ian, was that a next step in, we made these adventure cards, all right, things we want to do. We want to do multicolor. We want to do legendary creatures in adventure. Was that intentional? Was it something that just came with the story of the set? How did that come about?
Yeah, kind of both. In the case of Balloona Grand Squall that we saw earlier, very much an intentional, hey, we want to have a legend very neatly interacts with.
Qua vediamo probabilmente l'unico comandante che si potrà usare con l'avventura. No, anche Kellan si può usare con avventura nella zona di comando come comandante.
We are just about out of time. I'll try to get to whatever questions we can. Will Pyroblast be reprinted in the main set? No, that is just a promo. That is not coming to standard. The art swap on Wicked and Curse, is that an error on the slide, or will the tokens also have the art swap like was shown? What was shown on the screen is what was printed. So they will be different. If you like that art and art style, tune in and are looking for different specialized tokens. Here's a little tease for next week. We're gonna show off something cool in that realm on next week's weekly MTG show. So stay tuned for that.
La prossima settimana parleranno dei token.
After the invasion, but will knights still have a decent representation in the set?
Yeah, great questions. That's something that we did think and talk a lot about. There's not as much of a of the sort of Arthurian courts and knights and things like that in the set. The main themes go and the mechanics go, but we did make sure to have that still represented. So there are definitely a lot of knight creature types, not a lot of mechanical interactions with knight as a creature, so you're not like giving you bonuses for having lots of knights, but there are lots of individual words, other references to the courts as well throughout the set.
Yep. Let's see, other questions. Sarah, are the confetti Are the confetti foil? I think we just said this, but are the confetti foil treatments only for the anime art versions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do see some questions about other sets in chat. Just note we're sticking to Wilds of Eldraine this time, so I'm not trying to ignore you. Some of these questions are good, but we can talk about them in a future show. Great question, and I know Sarah wanted to talk about these too. What about the basic lands in this set? Yeah, Sarah wanted to talk about these and talk about some of the fantastic art on these. So, producer Sean, if we can pull the basic lands up on the screen, and let's see, and we'll get those up in a moment. As he's looking those, will there be other Omen Path travelers besides Trajan the Vedalken? So for those who may not have noticed, so our blue-green signpost legend is from Ravnica, and one of the changes in the Omen Path arc that we are entering is that non-planeswalkers now have the paths and means to travel between worlds through the Omen Path. So we've seen the Vedalken. So I don't know, Sarah, Ian, do you know if we're going to see any other Omen Path travelers in this set?
I know the answer to that off the top of my head. Troyan was the one that I was thinking of when the question was first. So I don't remember additional beyond that. I don't want to spoil anything or comment on anything that I'm percent sure of. So all I can say is.
Qua stanno parlando delle creature che hanno passato i piani e quindi che si trovano in altri piani in cui non dovrebbero.
Stay tuned for the arena team. We'll talk about the banned cards on social later in the day once the sixth card has been revealed. So head to the arena Twitter account for that. All right, let's see. Let's see, Sean, do we have those basic lands coming up? All right. So, okay, Ian, this is a question for you. I saw it a couple different ways in the format. So, the last time we were at Eldraine, there was a heavy monocolored theme. So, we saw a lot of cards with 3 colored mana symbols. In this one, it looks like we're focusing on colored pairs to tell each of the stories. Was that an intentional shift? Was there any consideration to the monocolored theme this time around?
Yeah, great question. Also something we talked about a lot internally as well. Kind of touches on the earlier question about the courts and knights as well. We knew that this time with returning to the second time around, we wanted more of an emphasis on the fairy tale stories rather than Arthurian knights and court. That put more of an emphasis on the fairy tale aspect of the world here. That being said, there are, as I mentioned earlier, some references.
Qui si parla delle favole che nella prima Eldraine sono state stampate in monocolore, mentre questa volta sono state stampate bicolore, a differenza della prima Eldraine.
Basic lands to talk about, so we're going to throw those up on stream, and then Sarah, can you just go to town?
Yeah, thanks, producer Sean. So these are really special. They're all created by the same artist team, Hari and Deepti, who are based out of Mumbai. And hear me now, believe me later, but these are only made out of paper. They build boxes, essentially, and they layer paper, like shadow box style. And then they light it very, very, very carefully. And then they photograph it, and that's how they get these images. It's really hard to believe. The more you zoom in, it gets even harder to believe that that's how they produce these, because they're so intricate and there's so much depth to them. They're just absolutely magical in the process that the two of them work in, and how they make these. And they were so great to work with. They'd never done anything for Magic before, so of course working in kind of these monocolors and like hitting our basic land colors was a little bit of a challenge for them, but they rose to it really well. And just to get all those like tiny little ladders in the tangle span of the mountain and the roots of the trees in the swamp, and the even the feeling of the mist in the plains piece. They just really, I find them endlessly fascinating that that's the method, because I think it's impossible. It's kind of impossible to believe looking at them that they're actually made from physical, just layers and layers of paper.
I like everyone else was kind of blown away by these when I first saw them, but I just assumed that they were paintings, that someone just did them, in their normal art style. But yeah, them being shadow boxing is incredible.
Yeah, and they make the paper themselves too. Every part of it. It's not just that they have it laying around.
Yeah, that's incredible. All right. Next up, so Ian, we have some questions about the rules around roll tokens. Now, again, if you head to dailymtg.com, there will be a mechanics article that dives into the rules, but let's chat about them a little bit. So, first of all, you can only have one roll on a given creature. How does that work, Ian, for rolls that you control versus your opponent controls? For example, can you have two rolls on a creature if two different players control them?
Short answer is yes. The way I let it up is you can have one roll per player per creature.
Okay.
So the same creature can have high rolls and rolls as well.
Gotcha. So if you curse an opponent's creature, they can then turn it into a sorcerer as well, and you can have a cursed sorcerer, and fun times are had by all. Let's see, next question. Are we going to have battles in this set? No, they're not in this set. That one is an easier one. Let's see. I think we've answered a number of these questions. So I'm seeing a bunch of questions about serialized cards, that sort of thing. And we have discussed those, so we're not going to jump back to them. Will the goose mother's existence be explained? Yeah, we'll explain it at some point. I love that people have grabbed onto the goose mother. It was one of the first pieces of art we showed for Wilds of Eldraine, and people seem to love it.
My other favorite is the sheep bee.
The sheep bee. I don't think we've seen that one yet.
I can't remember which card it's in that you were talking about, but it's also a little, in one of the anime cards you can see them. It's a nice little bumblebee that looks like a sheep.
Yeah, that's right. There is a little sheepy. Now, Sarah, you did want, we've had some questions about anime card art. I know you wanted to talk about some of the art for some of the other Enchanting Tales that we revealed in the debut. So, producer Sean, maybe we could throw a couple of those up on the screen for Sarah to, there we go. Prismatic Omen.
Oh yeah, this is a really special one because you can see in the art style is really, really clear and strong in this piece because of the shapes of those trees, right? They're basically just kind of half circles, but it's in the layering of the color on top of those half circles that turns them into trees that are, that our mind can see. And the rainbow, especially, hey, there's our goose mother. The artist was really excited to get a chance to draw this. It's such a fun, different take on it. And then
grande ristampa da Bliss Season.
Yeah, and here's some knights.
Aggravated Assault. Incantesimo, 3 rosso, stappa tutte le creature che controlli. Se la tua fase principale c'è un combat aggiuntivo seguito da una fase principale aggiuntiva. Attiva solo come stregoneria. Studio euristico, incantesimo, quando un avversario lancia una magia, puoi pescare una carta a meno che quel giocatore paghi 1.
Maybe on screen, but these are all full art, full vertical art. There's slight transparency in the text box there. So behind the text box, there's all kind of little treasures that she's collected in her grotto.
Related question, will Enchanted Tales and special guests be coming to Arena? So special guests is something we announced for future sets at Gen Con. Different from Enchanting Tales. Enchanting Tales is a bonus sheet. Special guests is a different sort of thing. We'll talk more about special guests as we get closer to the sets that contain those. But for Enchanting Tales specifically, yes, they are coming to Arena. Next up, Ian. Oh, I think this is going to be the last question. We are out of time. Ian, there's only one Planeswalker in this set, which is a first for us in a long time. So it's one Planeswalker versus previous sets, which had usually around 3. Did that affect overall set design in any way?
I would say not overall set design as a whole, but it did mean that we put special care into the one Planeswalker card we have in the set, and it is a rather unique one, is what I will leave it at for now.
All right. Well, that is our time. I want to first of all thank Sarah and Ian for coming on the stream and talking about Wilds of Eldraine. Wilds of Eldraine previews are running today through next week. We'll have the full card image gallery on the 24th. That's a slight shift from what we talked about earlier with it going up on the 25th. We moved it up to the 24th. So look for the full card image gallery then. If you're looking for more details about anything that we talked about on this stream in the debut, head to dailymtg.com. We'll have a collecting article. There's mechanics. There's all kinds of detailed information there for anyone who wants to run through all of that. Otherwise, look for more previews all throughout the internet. You can look at the Wilds of Eldraine Where to Find article for a list of outlets that will be previewing stuff on certain days. So check that out. Otherwise, I've been Blake Rasmussen, and thank you for joining us. We will see you next week.
Benissimo, per oggi la live finisce qui. Quindi io vi aspetto domani sera. Perché domani sera? Perché vediamo un po'. Ancora non è uscito l'articolo. Ci vediamo domani sera per parlare delle meccaniche, di tutte le carte spoilerate stasera, e faremo un'altra bellissima live e ci sarà tutto quanto in italiano. Per stasera è tutto. Io vi ringrazio di esservi uniti qua su Eldraine con me per parlare di queste carte nuove di Eldraine, e vi aspetto domani sera per parlare di meccaniche, di tutte le carte nuove, e se avete delle domande cercherò di risponderle direttamente in live. Io vi ringrazio tutti quanti e ci vediamo domani sera. Ciao ciao!